Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. This seems to be very, very bright. How's everybody doing? Happy Sunday, everyone. I'm having a good week. Make it a little bit more appropriate for Halloween-y. Okay, that looks good. Everybody grab your coffee. Got my Tim Hortons. There you go. There you go. Good. Get nice and caffeinated. All right, so this is Sunday Comics. For those of you who are new, it's a show I do every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what do? I pick a comic and I spend about an hour, sometimes more, never less. I talk too much. And we just go through the whole comic. I got no problems going through a 30, 40-year-old comic, but whenever there's a new comic, I like to get permission. So I got permission from Brian Bow to do this particular comic because it's relatively new, meaning it's the latest in the Wulf and Batsy series. Brian is hard at work at issue 14. I'm not 100% sure when he's going to launch the Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Fund My Comic, whatever he's doing, the crowdfund for issue 14. But I thought this would be a good October comic to do, since October is horror month, the beginning of the horror season, the Halloween season. And nothing's more Halloween horror season than werewolves and vampires. So a little bit of a backstory. I got tired of Marvel and DC around 2015. I just kind of quit cold turkey. I have no idea what's going on in current Marvel, no idea what's going on in current DC. And I was kind of disillusioned with comics overall. Now, I quit the mainstream before the whole political, it was always politically correct and gearing towards that way. But what was really, really bothering me, if you're a comic book fan and you're conservative like myself, that always is a little bit of, annoying. So that I was used to that. But what really got me was the disregard for continuity, the disregard for the past of comics, and the celebrity writers just coming in and doing whatever they wanted because they wanted the name. Like, you don't get to disrespect Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, and their ideas, and I think that the old editors either retired or the new editors either just didn't care, were too enamored with these celebrity writers, or they just didn't know. And I was just like, you know what, I can't be aggravated anymore. Comic books are too expensive. So I just left. And thank God I did, because I left in 2015, another 2 years. Oh my God, it was just, woke nonsense. So there you go. But I still love comics. And then I started hearing about like crowdfunds and things like that. So I started looking, and I found a company called Alterna Comics. And Alterna Comics, I just started buying everything by them. Geez, my glasses are just completely gross. And I started buying everything by Alterna Comics. And sight unseen, they were dirt cheap. I was like, why not? Why not? Why not just get Alterna Comics? And I'm trying to find my microfibers. This is the worst. I'm blind right now. And I got 1 month, I think it was, I got like Blood Realm by Robert Geronimo, which I absolutely love. Josh Howard's T-Bird and Throttle, which just blew me away. It was so good, so good. Horace H. Hoover by Fabrizio Aiello. I was like, I never heard of Fabrizio, and I never heard of Horace H. Hoover. It was number one. And I was just like, what is going on? And then Wulf and Batsy. The only one I knew was Blood Realm. I got a couple of issues of Blood Realm before that. And I was like, this company is just fire. It's so good. And I loved Wulf and Batsy so much that I reached out to Brian Bow, the creator, and I commissioned artwork, which I never did before. And I did the same thing with Josh Howard for Fabrizio Aiello for T-Bird and Throttle. And then later on, I bought an original page from Fabrizio Aiello too. I just fell in love with these books. They all went their separate ways, and the rest is history. But I've been a fan ever since. So, I kind of I'll turn a little bit for introducing me to people that I consider friends now. A little bit of a spoiler. I'm getting a 2-page silent story colored, and I'm going to submit it to Pete Cimetti of Alterna Comics to be published in it came out on a Wednesday, his anthology series. Now, I don't know if it's going to be accepted. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. If he doesn't accept it, I'll put it in it's only 2 pages, so it's a front and back. I could put it in an issue of Heroic Tales, but the thing is, it happens after another story. So there you go. So, but that's my plans. We'll see what Pete has to say. All right. Happy having a blessed Sunday. Filibustered long enough to get my blessing from Zach Tan. So first off, let's start business. Heroic Tales 2. That's my comic book. It is still on Fund My Comic. It will always be on Fund My Comic. I will venture out into Kickstarter, and I'm gonna try Indiegogo with my next, because they have a new parent company, so they're under a new ownership. So I'll try them out again. I wasn't particularly happy with Indiegogo last time, but I'll give them another try. New owners. It's the comic, as far as art, lettering, and all that stuff, is complete. We're just doing pre-press stuff now. When the pre-press stuff is done, it's off to the printers. So we're a little behind schedule, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. So Heroic Tales 2, jump in on it now. 2 complete stories. The Patriarch, and the name of that story is Subterranean Homesick Blues. He goes underneath Science City because a child falls into a sinkhole or is abducted. We don't know. And the Patriarch goes to find and recover the missing child, and learns a little bit about what goes on beneath Science City. And then we have the introduction of Mary Sue. I love that story. It's so good. If you liked Heroic Tales 1, you're going to love Heroic Tales 2. It's better. It's just so much better. All right, now let's get to the comic at hand. We got Wulf and Batsy, number 13. And there's just a lot on this cover. So there's a couple of variant issues, variant covers. I think there's 4 covers altogether. This is my favorite, so this is the one I picked. I make a habit of saying that I only get the A covers, the standard covers of a comic. I wonder which one Brian considers to be the standard cover. I don't know, but this is my favorite. So this is issue 13, 64 pages. We might be here a while. And this is my favorite thing right here. Bloody Weirdo Comics. Look at that. That's the name of Brian's comic book company. And I just love that werewolf. He drew that werewolf when he was a kid. I forget if it was kindergarten or whatever. But he was visiting his parents, and he went through, he went into the basement, and there was like a box of Brian's art when he was a kid, and he found this. The guy's always been into monsters, like a kindergarten drawing of a werewolf, and that became his his logo. I just love that. I just get a kick out of it every time I see it. So we got Wulf over here, covered in blood. Look at those maniac eyes. And this is Batsy, female vampire, male werewolf. And what are they doing? The overall premise of the story is a ferocious werewolf, a cute, psychotic vampire girl are going around looking for a place that they could call home. And they exist in this quasi-real world of like maybe Ohio, who knows, but like sometimes it borders on this imaginary Transylvania world. You know what I mean? Like it exists in like Hammer horror film land. Maybe the modern world, may not be the modern world, depending upon the needs of the story. I just like it. I like it so much. Of course, we got the Bone 13 over here, and this is the fan favorite Batsy in the bone bikini, the bone bikini. So let's open it up and check out what's on the back. Oh, the undressed art. So let's check it out. All right. From this point going forward, standard Sunday comics. I check out the page, then address the chat. So we got an introduction from Bloody Weirdo Comics. The number 13 has always been, an introduction. What do they call it? An editorial from the author, Brian Bow himself. And then thank you to family, friends, and colleagues for love, encouragement, and good advice. So here is all of these cool people. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. Tonic Bowl, Frankie. I mean, this is just. I'm so happy to see this for two reasons. First, it's always good to see your name. Oh wow, Brian likes me. But what I really get a kick out of it. These are the same people that I love. I never met Monica. That's Brian's. Charlotte. She's adorable. That's Brian's daughter. But like Josh Howard. No disrespect to Brian or Dave. I just don't know who they are. But Josh Howard. He does Kaijus and Cowboys. What a great guy. What an infectious smile. Me, Fabrizio Aiello does Horace H. Hoover, and I'm hoping to work with Fabrizio on a story of my own when he's done with Horace H. Hoover. Tonic Bowl has his own comic, Saving the Universe, Saving the World, and Saving the Universe was a one-shot spinoff. Just a fun comic, and he to me he's like the unsung guru of indie comics. Like the guy has these insights that are just, he's like the Cassandra. He predicts everything that's true, and then I just don't listen to him. and Tonic Bowl and I are working on a comic called Eddie is Doomed. I just realized I said the wrong thing. Frankie B. Washington is the one who Kaijus and Cowboys. Josh Howard does Tonic Bowl. Yeah, there's a nice clip. Josh Howard does T-Bird and Throttle and Dead at 17. Clint Stroker, he Downcast. And Isaac Bell is an artist who just does phenomenal artwork. And then these are all the supporters on Patreon. And here we go. Look at this wonderful, moody art. Just wonderfully moody. And you see what I'm talking about? It's the Thin Tree, Ohio settled. So I don't know if this is a real location. I don't know if this exists in Brian's imagination, but it's got like this wonderfully otherworldliness to it. Like I could see Christopher Lee just standing right there, dressed as Dracula. The people like, this could be the modern world. This could be the 1890s. You know what I mean? That's what Brian does with his art. I love all of this line work. I talk about this. I haven't talked about this in a while. I just realized, but when I started getting the idea that I was going to do my own comics, I of course went to the masters. I broke out like how to draw comics the Marvel way, even though I can't draw, and sequential art by Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, rather, and sequential art by Will Eisner. And I reread them, and I've always thought that like comic books were cinematic rather than comic books were theatrical rather than cinematic, meaning that they were kind of like a stage play. And then in the 90s, comics, with Image Comics and then the Ultimates and all that stuff, they went more towards a cinematic approach to comics, meaning big budget movies and widescreen format, and but what I really like about this, it's more theatrical, and I don't know if I'm talking over anybody's heads or if this doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm not explaining it too well, but this just seems like a theater set. It seems more like personal, focused, rather than like a big budget Avengers movie. I'm never sure if I made this point. And looks like there's no comments, so I'll just go to the next page. Just I we got the eyeball blink coming out of a barrel, floating down. Just look at this wonderful setting. Notice the only word on this page is a sound effect. It's coming over to here. What do you think? What do you see? Should we try it? Yeah, why not? Great storytelling. Great storytelling. Like this is going to sound contradictory, but it's not contradictory. At least not to my way of thinking. Is this reads like a storyboard from a movie? Movie, but you said theatrical. Movies can be theatrical too. Like look at Night of the Hunter with Charles Laughton directed it, and Shelley Winters, and why can't I think of the actor Robert Mitchum? To me, that's like such a theatrical movie. But look at the storytelling. The only word is a sound effect of boink, and we got an eyeball just flying around. We all know exactly what's happening. There's no confusion. There's no disconnect. There's no what's going on. And the proof in that is there's no words. If you could convey the story without any words, that is almost like the purest form of a comic book. Because yes, I know comic books are words and pictures, but I think the words should only be there to convey the information that cannot be conveyed in the art. If all the information needed to understand the story and to get the feelings of the story can be done through art, then the words are getting in the way. Yes, I know I can't draw. I'm a writer. Why am I saying that? Because it's true. Sometimes I think writers feel like they need to put words in to justify themselves, but no. I mean, the way I work on a comic is I would give all the description in each panel, and then the artist would draw. So this, I'm imagining myself as the writer right here. I'm not Brian, obviously, but if I wrote this, these are all my words conveyed into images. So my words are all over this page. It's just that they're converted into images, and that images are telling the story. This, to me, for so many reasons, is the purest form of comic books. Why? It's one guy. So Brian wrote it, he drew it, he lettered it. He did color it because black and white are colors, but this is one guy, and he did it all in art. This is the purest form of comic book you could get right here. And then, of course, now we're having conversation. We need some words. You can't have artwork do conversation. I mean, I guess you can. You can. But what do you see? What did you see? Should we try it? Sure, why not? So here we got, 1, 2, 3. And what do? We already know exactly what's going on. They explored this town through her gross, cool, whatever word you want to use, trick of setting out her eye. And he can't see. It's not his eye. Batsy says, yeah, this looks good. Boom, nice setup. We know exactly what's going on. Nothing needs to be said over here. And you know what I do like? I didn't catch it the first time I read it. Sometimes when I do these, I pick up stuff that I didn't notice. But I love the slant right over here. It just shows you it's like a visual foreshadowing of like things are askew. Things are not on the level. Things are when a wolf and a vampire move into town, they're not just gonna come in, sit down, watch TV, check out Benny Hill, order cookies and pizza. You know what I mean? It's always going to go sideways, So this is just like a nice little panel, that tells you what you already know. All right, let's check out the comments. Zach Tan, sorry, working and listening in the background. Don't be sorry. Mono HCC, good layout is the most important in my opinion. Yeah. A good layout. Absolutely. I cannot disagree. One vision. Yes, that's what this is. One vision. It's funny because we got one eyeball. There goes the neighborhood. Yeah. As much as Brian Bow loves monsters, I don't think he would want a werewolf and a vampire living in his neighborhood either. Yeah. But fictional world, that's a different story. So here we got the home of Sven Neth and his daughter Terry Neth. So we got a break in maybe time, a break in location, and it's always good to set up just a little. What do they call that? Like a establishing shot. And this is pretty good. Now, to talk about comic book making theory, this is the kind of. I sound so pretentious sometimes. Sometimes I get so annoyed at myself. But I made one comic book, and here I am giving advice on how to make comic book stuff like that. So consider the source, But when writing a comic book, writing the script is one thing, but knowing how to use the pages is really, really important. And Brian's been doing this for 20, 25 years. You know what I mean? He's a master. It's just something that I hate. I don't hate to do this, but I understand how pretentious this sounds. Chuck Dixon I said Chuck Dixon my comic, and Chuck Dixon said, John understands the language of comics. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean I understand how to read. It means that I understand that the comic book medium requires certain things, just as film requires certain things. Even TV requires different things than film, and theater is completely different. These are all mediums of entertainment. I'm not going to pretend to understand how to write a screenplay. I'm not going to pretend to write a novel, stuff like that. But I'd like to think I'm okay at writing a comic book. And one of the things that you need to understand when writing a comic book, and Brian totally understands it, is page breaks. Now, right here, we all know this, whether or not we realize that we know this. We all know this as comic book fans. But Brian didn't just put the establishing shot right here. You know what I mean? And then we got the house of Terry and what's his name? Sven. Right here. We understand that these 3 pages are a sequence, one location, one scene, and then this is the scene break. Physically, turning the page is part of reading the comic book. Yeah, we all know that, but do we understand it? So, you have to be aware of that when you're writing a comic book. The scene break, page turn, boom, new location, new characters. I'm sure there's a word for that I don't know. And who is messaging me? I always get messages. I think my friends watch, and then they he's live. Let's send the messages. And I'm weak. I always check my messages. I always think that there's somebody bleeding in an alley somewhere and they need my help. But anyway, we established now to a nice house in the suburbs. Beautiful house. I would love that house. I would love this wraparound steps. And it just looks like a nice normal everyday home. So we got Terry over here with the nice butt, the father over here with the beard. So you're not going out with him again. Come on, Dad. Rhett is my boyfriend. Why him? That kid has been in and out of trouble his whole life. Now, this is another thing. How much information was given in this word balloon? Why him? That kid has been in and out of trouble his whole life. Now, first off, does it sound realistic? Yes, it does. Is it succinct? Yes, it is. Now, myself included, we tend to want to pontificate, show off, give everybody their own voice, all that cool stuff. But this is a conversation between a father and a daughter. This isn't the time for Shakespeare. This is just conversational. And what did Brian do? He gave us everything we needed to know in this little panel. Dad, it's not a bad guy. He could have said that harsh. He could have said that mean, but he kind of said it matter of factly, and it sounds true. So we know about we know about Terry, we know about the father, and we know about Rhett in one word balloon. Perfect. This is gonna take forever if I analyze it this much. And then I could name a dozen and one nice young men at church with good reputations and promising futures. Why can't you date one of them? The boys at the church are boring. I need a guy who is a little bit more adventurous. You say adventurous, I say dangerous. Oh, Daddy, I love you. I never wanted to. What can I do? A girl can't control who she falls in love with. I just don't understand. I don't understand it either. That's what makes it romantic. Bye, Daddy. I'll be home in a few hours. Great acting over here. Faces, trouble. Now, I don't think I'm giving the story away, but it's a werewolf and a vampire. It ain't gonna end well. Sorry, Brian, for jumping ahead, but we all know. So now let's check out the Hey, Stippling was here. Stippling Vaughn. I was worried when I changed the script for a different page layout. What is Stippling talking about? Well, Stippling is drawing another one of my stories. He's drawing the printer's devil. The print in colonial America. There were printers, Gutenberg press kind of things, and the printer's devil was a term for the printer's apprentice. So there's actually a restaurant out here by me that I went to 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's still around. It's called the Printer's Devil. It used to be a print shop. And they call the apprentice devils because they're always covered in ink. They're changing the letters. They're brushing everything with ink. They're always dirty, and they just called them devils. It was just like a little shop term. And when I was in this restaurant, I was like, the Printer's Devil, literally 30 years ago. I've been always thinking about it. That would be a great name for a superhero. And then I wrote a script, and then, like, coincidentally, Brian Stippling was like, "Hey, you want to work together?" I was like, "Let me see some of your art." And I'm like, "This is kind of what I pictured for the story. It's just perfect. It's just perfect." So Stippling is saying he changed the thing, but that's fine because he's an artist. I'm a writer. He sees things differently than me, and I got no problem with that. As long as he doesn't add giant robots and spaceships, stuff like that, we're cool. Jolly 12, good morning, guys. Oh, and Stippling Vaughn has his own channel on YouTube. You could see him drawing my comic book. He sits in his bar. He draws. It's funny. I'm just so amused by Stippling's videos because he talks about comic books. He's in a bar. You can hear the sounds of clinking and stuff in the background. And what he does is he put in his own bright light in his booth, sits there and draws. It's I just picture like Tolkien over there in the booth. You know what I mean? Next down there, and some other old timer like, just sitting there, and just sounds like a nice little place. And I'm at church. Okay, so Zach Tan's at church. We'll catch you later. Happy Sunday, RJ Williams, another comic book creator. He has Call Sign Orion. You could check out Call Sign Orion on Fund My Comic, correct? Fund My Comic. And there you go. Now let's turn the page. Now we got the old Bijou, the old movie theater, a diner, the cars. Like, again, is this now? Is this in the past? Does it matter? Or is it in a town that's off the beaten path? So they kind of have like all, doesn't matter. But it what matters is it's just a great setting. So I remember reading this. It just took me back to when I read this when I first got it. Brian's comics are like, so I got stacks and stacks. Like, I don't know if you can see, but I got this. Oh no, you can't. 2 huge stacks of comics over here to read, and then I got long boxes full of comics that I haven't read yet. But whenever I get Brian's comics, they always go on top of the pile. I used to put my comics on the bottom of the I used to put the comics that I really wanted to read on the bottom of the pile, forcing me to read all the comics I either accidentally got or lost interest in, have to read them first. And then one day I was just like, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and the last comic I read is a comic I don't like. So I always read the comics I'm really excited to read first now, which makes the pile stack up. Because then I look at it, I'm like, I don't want to read that. But I bought it, so I got to read it. But anyway, I read Brian's comics right away. And I just remember I took a picture of this panel and I sent it to Brian, and I said, just pray your daughter doesn't grow up to date a guy that looks like that. But it's just so perfect. You know, the way you draw a character conveys information. And what's he doing? He's talking her into taking mushrooms. You know, and I have to laugh because Brian's comic prominently features mushrooms, and Heroic Tales 2 prominently features mushrooms. I mean, look at this bar. This might as well be a Star Wars cantina. We got Jabba the Hutt over here. We got this creep, you know, sexy spy chick over here. I mean, she's not, but that's what they look like. You know, I just like how each person, it's cartoony, but not at the same time. I just really like Brian's style. You know, everything. You know, and he does his own lettering. Did I mention that? I forget his own lettering. Like, I like how he emphasizes words. It almost has like a cadence to the speech, like human. Like, you hear how I'm emphasizing certain words, taking pauses. He does all of that. When you read it, and these are pretty, considering everything up to, I don't even know. Oh, I thought the pages were numbered. There's a lot of information in this. Now, I'm not reading it. It's a lot to read. 64 pages. We'll be here all day. I'm not reading it. But just looking at this acting, just holding up the mushrooms, hesitation in the face, you know exactly what's going on. Exactly what's going on. This is excellent storytelling. I mean, look at this guy right here. Look at this guy. You know, oh, would you rather go home to daddy? I mean, this is the only word balloon you really need. You know, he holds this up, and then down here, would you rather go home to daddy? Boom. You know, everything leads to this word balloon. We might as well just draw an arrow right here. And this is another thing of the scaffolding of comic books. You know, the language of comic books, as Chuck Dixon said. Brian totally gets it. Is, you know, we read the page in a Z pattern. We read each panel in a Z pattern. And this is the last word balloon in this 2-page sequence of Rhett basically manipulating this girl who, quite frankly, should be stronger, but that's the power of Rhett and dangerous love, you know, and it's also a horror comic. Everything points to here. Everything, all roads lead to, oh, would you rather come home to daddy? So let's check out the comments, and then I will flip the page. Stippling Vaughn says, today's video is extra long, talking about my idea for 3 new DC Tangent video comics. So Stippling Vaughn, if you subscribe to his channel, this is my Sunday routine. I wake up, I make my coffee, I check out my email, I wait for the caffeine to kick in. Otherwise, I'm like, I'm the worst in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I'm a 2 o'clock in the morning person. So I wake up, check my email, wait for the caffeine to kick in, do this video, and then when this is done, I watch Stippling Vaughn, you know, draw my story. You know, I'm like a little kid. I'm such a pest. So forgive me, Stippling. Forgive me, anybody who may be watching this, who may be working on my stuff. I always say, take your time. I want you to have fun. I want this to be a pleasure project. I don't want to ever become a pest, but at the same time, I want to see those pages because I'm like a little kid. It's like Sunday every time. It's Sunday. It's like Christmas every time I see a page. You know what I mean? So take your time, do it at your own pace, but I want to see them. So the contradictory nature of existence. Call Sign Orion is live until Halloween on Fund My Comic. There you go. I backed it. I backed it. Yeah, I backed it. What do you want me to do? You want to fight? All right, let's turn the page. Again, Brian understands the little language of comic books. We turn the page. It is physically turning the page. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't think of it until just now. I think this is one of the reasons why I don't like digital medium. I wonder, any of you youngins who read comics digitally, is there ever like a change in location, a change of seat that is just jarring? I wonder if it's because you don't have that physical act of flipping a page. Like this is just natural time to change locations, change characters, change time, or to reveal a jump scare, or you know what I mean? Like, what is the bad guy's plans? What is he up to? And then you turn the page, Doctor Doom. That would be a perfect time to do it at the other side of a page flip. So I wonder if you're looking at it on your phone and you just you're scrolling. I wonder if people ever get that, like, or is that a whole new language? I wonder if people who do exclusively digital web comics, if they have to keep in mind that there is no page flip. That's something interesting. I just thought of that for the first time, because I don't think of digital comics. No offense, I'm an old fart who likes physical comics. So the home of Henriette. And what are they doing? They're playing cards. So look at this house and notice, just great storytelling. Notice the home of this house, Sven and Terry's house. It's a beautiful, well-kept, classical, just like you want that house. I want that house. I don't know if that's a house in Brian's neighborhood that he just admires or whatever, if there's a product of his imagination, but that is just like if I lived in that house, that is just like a pleasant house, and then this house. I don't want to live in that house. Do you want to live in that house? A guy who looks like that is the only thing that could be happy. He's got the Innsmouth look, if you ask me. And then you got this girl over here. Brian draws such cute girls. She's cute, but she ain't wholesome looking. She ain't wholesome as opposed to Terry over here. The big eyes. She's sexy. She's cute. She's wholesome looking. I instantly feel bad for her. You know why I instantly feel? Because I know Brian, and I know that there's a werewolf, and I know that there's a vampire. You know what I mean? So he's just playing. He's playing with my emotions. Brian, you're playing with my emotions. Stop playing with my emotions. And over here, we got this girl. Just the subtle tilt of the lips, the way the eyes are. She's trouble. You know it. Just good acting. And then this guy's barely human. So much talking. Hey, Henry, what you doing? Playing a game of 13 down with some friends. What do you want? And we got flies. You know what I mean? Like, the only word that pops into my head is like troglodyte. This troglodyte answers the door. It's like red. And this is just interesting. Now this house is askew. Like we saw the askew landscape with Wulf and Batsy as they're entering town, so things aren't on the up and up. But again, it's a wolf and vampire moving into town. It ain't on the up and up. Now we're dealing with humans, and I gotta say, humans are the scariest thing of all because humans exist. Stories like The Hitcher with Rutger Hauer, that scares me because there are humans like that. Hostel, if you've ever watched Hostel, I do not recommend it. I do not recommend it. Why? Because it's to me, that is one of the scariest things, because there could be, maybe there is, I don't know. I don't want to know. Maybe there is a person that captures unwary travelers someplace in Eastern Europe and disembowels them for fun. I mean, why not? H. Holmes did it in Chicago. You know what I mean? Like, there is precedent for human beings being like that. But as far as I know, there's not real werewolves and not real vampires. So I could watch a vampire movie, a werewolf movie that's as gory as all get out, and kind of admire it for the special effects, the stories, the acting, even the cleverness of the gore and all that stuff. Like you know, I, how sexy the girl vampire looks and whatever. I could, but when I see like a movie like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's based on a real person. Those movies get me. If it could really happen, that scares me. So this guy scares me more than monsters. Why? Because there are creeps like this. So what I was getting at is, we first meet Rhett. That wholesome looking dad didn't like him. We know he's bad news. And look at his face. He is even a little freaked out by this guy. Hi, Uncle Henry. Yeah, so I've been like telling Terry how great the fungi is, and like he really wants to try it. So we were hoping. I did try it, and I didn't like it. You didn't say so. Of course, I got a free sample for my favorite niece. I've got one right here. I don't know why. Can't explain it, but the fact that the uncle is giving the niece these creepy drugs makes it even scarier. I don't know. Brian. All right. We got no comments. Let's turn the page. Usually I get a billion comments, so just let me know. Is the sound good? Is the video good? This this panel is so disturbing. So disturbing, and I don't want to explain why. I'd like to think that it's obvious, but like it. First off, listen to this opening balloon. It tastes wrong. Not it tastes bad. Not ew. It's gross. Not ow. It burns. It tastes wrong. Ew. Ew. And then he says it only tastes bad at first. She didn't say it. She didn't say it tastes bad. She said it tastes wrong. The more bites you take, the more you'll feel the vibe. Yeah, eat it up. Just don't tell your old man. So this panel is so freaking creepy. We got this wholesome girl being led astray. And then we got her uncle and the creepy boyfriend who, quite frankly, looks too old to be dating her. Just watching her eat the mushroom. And the less said about that, the better. I guess it's not so bad. You wouldn't happen to have any more, would you? Not enough in the house. Not enough to party with. Follow me around back. There's plenty there. Under the slide. Under the slide. That's where it all grows. Under the slide. Right this way. I'll unlock the gate. Then you can see yourself. And so now he's leading them. Don't look at this monster. I know Brian reads Lovecraft, and to me, all roads lead to Lovecraft. It's just like, this is just like the normal guy who goes to Innsmouth and he finds out that like everybody's an inbred fish man. Like, don't go to Innsmouth. The gate's locked. My stash is your stash. You're welcome to pick as many as you can for a price of $100. $100. That's my whole life savings. Look at this guy. His whole life savings is $100. Now, I don't mean to cast no aspersions, but this guy looks like he's, let's just say, older than Terry over here. I bet Terry has $100. You know what I mean? This loser doesn't have life savings of $100. Take it or leave it. Fine, you crook. You know how it. God knows how I'm going to retire when I'm old, but I'll take it. So $100 was his retirement fund. Turn the page. And backyard looks like my backyard. I bought this house from the original owner who hasn't fixed the fence, hasn't done anything in the backyard, and quite frankly, I haven't done anything in the backyard either. So I got overgrown bushes along the fence, some slats missing. I repaired the fence a couple of years ago. Go on, keep going, keep going. They're walking through the backyard. Look at the creepy trees. What is that? I told you, the slide. I carved it myself out of onyx. That's how it gets its pretty shiny black color. There's no fungi under it. No, you must have misheard me. The fungi grows down there, not under there. You have to go down and slide out back to get it. That's what I said. Something disturbing here now. There's an onyx slide. Just where does it go? Why does it grow? Why did he carve a slide? It's just, this is where the book goes off the rails, in a good way. As I'm reading this, so far everything is like could happen. The mushrooms are real things. There's bad boyfriends. There could even be the creepy uncle. But now it's like, where you going, Brian? He carved an onyx slide. Now, was it a gigantic piece of onyx? Did he carve it and assemble it? I don't know. How did he carve it? It's just like a lot of unanswered questions that kind of get creepy and scary as you think about it. So there you go. You want us to go down that thing, but it looks all dark and dirty back there. A little dirt never hurt nobody. But let's be clear, I don't want you to do anything. You want the fungi. That is, forgive me. Sorry about this. But I love this, Brian. Like I keep talking about Brian's artwork, but his writing is pretty good. I just love this. Let's be clear. I don't want you to do anything. You want the fungi. Basically, this is your choice. This is your choice. You call that a slide? It goes all the way down the hill and disappears into the overgrown grass behind the property. I can't even see where the other end comes out. But geez, Henry, buy a lawnmower. It comes out underground. The fungi can't grow up here in the light. It only thrives in the dark tunnels under the surface. What? You never said we were going to go crawling around underground. Oh, I'm sorry. If that's too much work for you, you can call it off. No hard feelings. Here's your money back. Go home. And I'll let you know next time I go down there. I'll pick another batch myself. I don't know. Should be next month. No, keep your money. We're going to go party tonight. We're going out. You better not be a ripoff, Henry. Or there better be a ton of fungi down there. Come on. Just look at this subtle manipulation. If you're scared, you don't have to do it. Like, I might do it next month. Like, he's basically not forcing them to do anything. He's very clever. He's just pushing the buttons, and they are reinforcing the fact that they are choosing this of their own free will. It's just so clever. It's just so. Some people are master gaslighters. Now this couple, right? If anybody asks, like, we went, he never told us to do. We picked this. They don't even realize how subtly they were manipulated. Very, very clever. Very, very clever. Writing. Henry's very clever. This troglodyte. And now, again, we're talking about the language of comic books. We're being set up for a reveal over here. Now, if this was a web comic or digital, like, you probably already see it or whatever, but like, I can't see it. I have to flip this page to see what's below the tunnel. It builds suspense. It's pretty cool. And I'm going to keep the suspense because I'm going to address Zactran. They keep pushing the boundary, slowly leading her, and on an onyx. Yeah, what is going on? What the F? Good morning, saludos. Hey, Oscar's here. How you doing, Oscar? Oscar's doing a lot of the coloring for my comics. He colored the Mary Sue story. Where do you see the colors in the Mary Sue story? They're so good. And he's drawing and coloring Eddie is Doomed. and I think coloring some Marcus Kellegrew's Public Eye. So let's turn the page. Boom. It's just the sliding, and now they're underground. Henry wasn't lying. Look at this. Fungi. And why do they keep saying fungi and not mushrooms? I don't know. It's just Brian's choice to I think to make it a little bit more alien, a little bit more sinister, a little bit more creepy. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I love mushrooms. Mushroom on pizza, mushroom in soup. I it's like, like I'm trying to think of like mushrooms like over chicken. It's just so good. But nobody likes fungi. You know what I mean? So that the fact that these people are doing all of this effort to get fungi, it I think it just emphasizes the wrongness of all of this. So here they are. Start working early. Cool. Let's see. Let's turn the page. I don't know. I just like this. Seems like deeper we go into this tunnel, the more fungi there are, and the more you eat, the better they taste. Wow, look up ahead of grotto. And again, it's funny because when me and Brian were talking about our future comics, Brian's a lot quicker. One person show, he could work at a faster pace. I was talking about like the patriarch, the hero of my comic. He's underground and there's mushrooms and everything like that, and then there's a bioluminescence. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if our stories were similar? Similar in the fact that there's underground and there's mushrooms. But look at the bioluminescence. Ooh, let me see. Oh, wow. These are different. It's like they're alive. And she's picking the mushrooms. I can't believe I didn't like the taste at first. And here I don't know how my father doesn't approve of fungi, but how could something so delicious be bad? Forget your father. This is harmless pleasure. Oh, they make me feel so sensual. So what are they doing? They're tripping. They're freaking out. The visuals are pretty obvious. I don't think I have to explain, is this happening? Is this hallucination? Or are these fungi somehow sentient and what's the word? Mobile? It's just wrong. Like she said, it tastes wrong, and now we can see this ain't right. This ain't right. Again, turn the page. Yeah, baby. Oh yeah, my whole body tingling. I just want to rip my clothes off and roll around and have some more. Look at that. Just lecherous older man. Lecherous older man. Like he is. I don't know. But he just looks older, and it just adds to the creepiness. She seems a little bit more younger and innocent and whatever. And you know what? She chose this too. At any point, she could have said, "No, I'm done." Which is my lecture for today. Don't succumb to peer pressure. I've always been pretty good about resisting peer pressure. Feels like they're closing in, gripping me. Yeah, they're pulling me down. We're falling through the floor and into some kind of cave. Oop. And some kind of gloop slide. Goop slide, not gloop. I'm covered in goop. Look at the pile of bones and what's on top of it. Good Lord. So they ate the mushrooms. They got high. They reveled in the sensations. And now they're in too deep. Boom. Deeper layer into the pit, the dungeon. Can't help but think of Dungeons and Dragons. They just went from level 3 to level 6. And good Lord, what do they see? No comments, so I'll flip the page. A pile of bones and a rat. And what does it do? It eats rat. It's like the blank eyes, this monstrosity. You can see Rhett's rib cage. There's no question that Rhett is dead, murdered, eaten by a. Is he? I'm trying to think now. I said murdered, but is that the correct word? Is if you are eaten by an animal, you're not murdered, right? Murder implies intent and legality. She's, all beat up and horrified. Break. What's it say? The Titzenhorum Tarum Zazorba Hotel. Vacancies, big old trees. I like. I always like that when the trees are inverted in the darkness. It just looks like an old black and white photograph. The problem with these places, they only let you stay a couple of days before they start pestering you about money. We could eat the manager. That would buy us some time. A young couple was reported missing tonight. Terry Nith, daughter of the town elder Sven Nith, has disappeared along with her loser boyfriend, Rhett Nye. The pair were last seen at the home of Henry Ett. I just love that. Even the newspaper, the news, they just like, he's a loser. So the news, I'd like to think that if I disappeared, died, whatever, the news would be like, loser, John. How bad do you have to be for the news to call you a loser? Now, this is interesting to me. They're staying at a hotel with nudie pictures, so this is probably some sort of like no-tell, 3-hour rates kind of place. And they're just like casually, like, we could eat the manager, that'll buy us some time. Like, you got to remember, they're monsters. You know what I mean? They're not the good guys. And Brian is clever with this. You look at, especially Batsy, you understand, like, she's a cute girl. She's probably 200 years old because she's a vampire, you know what I mean? But she's a cute girl. So you get tricked every once in a while and you forget that she's a monster. She's not human. She's using human form, you know what I mean? But she's not human. Now, this is something I'd like to talk to Brian about. She's eating an apple. One of the things about monsters is, for me anyway, whatever you want to do, like, you have to be consistent. Like, if you're using science fiction, okay, Star Trek, for example, you establish the rules of the transporter. You have to be consistent with the rules of the transporter so that people understand the story, so that when you're using it, like, you could create the transporter can't do that. It can't get him out of this in time. You know what I mean? So it creates drama. Or if you, like, Doctor Who is just famous for just breaking the rules. Like, sometimes, like, you're just like, the TARDIS is just going to fix these problems. The TARDIS is basically the god in the machine. But Star Trek is pretty good with consistency of its technology. Now, horror movies and monsters, it's the same thing. Just swap out the technology for supernatural. So you got to establish the rules of the monsters. Now, one of the things I didn't think of, like, if I was to write a vampire story, vampires wouldn't eat human food, because if they could eat human food, they don't need the blood. So here she is eating an apple. Is this for show? Is this just, can she taste it? She just likes the taste. Does she spit it out? Because does she digest food? Does she go to the bathroom? You know what I mean? These are all questions that are now being asked because she's not human. Like, could she get fat if she eats a lot? Like, so I would just avoid it all by saying vampires can't eat human food. Like, I could see her taking a bite of, chewing it, and then using a napkin. You know what I mean? If she needed to pretend to be human, say at a meal or something like that, all the vampire, she's seducing her victim at a restaurant or something like that. But anyway, that's just something a crazy person like myself would think of. Like, that's, I love world building. So if Brian's watching this or whatever, let me know. So we're going. This just made me laugh. It just, like, Batsy is like more matter of fact, more live in the moment, more just like, hey, we got a problem. I'm a sledgehammer. Let's solve it. Whereas Wolf, I think it was last issue or maybe issue 11. I forget which issue it was, but he is really sinister. He really like comes up with long-term planning, like to the point. I forget what issue number it was, but I actually wrote to Brian. I was like, "This is the meanest issue ever." Like again, you always forget because Wolf, or Kevin as his human form, he's human. You know, he's kind of like a sullen regular guy in his wolf form, and then he turns into Wolf, and then Wolf doesn't speak. He's just this rage fur monster, and he's dangerous, But the wolf, but when he's human, he comes up with a plan. He multi-stage plan, and it can be quite sinister, quite mean. Whereas Batsy is just like, look, a nail, I'm a hammer, boom. But here, more so in this exchange right here, I've got an idea. This Henry Et guy they keep talking about on the news, the one who kidnapped and murdered those kids. Let's kill him and live in his house. Well, the cops don't know for sure that he killed anybody, and they said he was a suspect in the disappearances. He's more level-headed. He also said he's a drug dealer, so he's a scumbag either way. Nobody will care if he disappears. Once we get rid of him, we could board the windows and everyone will assume he skipped out and abandoned it. I bet we could stay there for months before the cops get their evidence together and come knocking. You know what I mean? They're monsters. They're monsters. They're just casually, let's kill him, devour him, feast on his flesh, drink his blood, and we can hang out, watch TV for a couple of months. You know, they're like Bonnie and Clyde of the supernatural world. So now we got the cops over here. Cop cars are pulling away, but what? Some girl and some guy just hopped to the backyard fence. They're trespassing, you know. So just this troglodyte has sexy chicks just lounging about the house. That ain't wholesome. That ain't wholesome. What's going on? What is this thing? I don't see an easy way in. Freeze, you monkeys. What are you doing in my yard? Patchy, get around behind them. So I guess she's Patchy with the eye patch. Oops. Batsy, get back. I got him covered. Uh-oh. Here we go. Holy guacamole. This guy's a werewolf. Look at that. Look at that panel. Bang, you're right. He is. So who do you root for in this particular scenario? I always like a good guy. I always want somebody to root for, but who am I rooting for in this particular scenario? A couple of issues ago, it was Wolf and Batsy, but when I saw how mean they could actually be, you know, it's like Breaking Bad. I watched Breaking Bad because there was nobody to root for. Everybody was a piece of garbage, and like you were just like, oh, finally he gets his comeuppance. I like Wolf and Batsy. It's a good comic, but like I want to see them get their comeuppance, especially after. And I don't want to spoil it. How mean they could possibly be. He's right. Boom, boom, boom. Now, holy guacamole! This guy's a werewolf. Does this mean that the average person in the Wolf and Batsy world knows that there's vampires and werewolves? Is she just saying that because she, like everybody else, we all know what a werewolf is, even though they're not real in our world? Like, so if somebody was to transform in front of us, he's a werewolf. Is that what she's doing? A lot of questions. We got Oscar over here. He says, great monster drawings. Yeah, Brian is so good. Brian is so good. Look at this. Boom, boom, boom. So what do we got here? Wolf is a ferocious, carnivorous werewolf. he can't be killed by the shotgun blasts, but I do enjoy this. What happens? The shotgun blast has enough impact that it's throwing him backwards into the onyx slide. Now he's reacting. Boom! And he's throwing out his arms. He takes Patch and Batsy, and he throws them backwards also. Boom, boom. And they're going down this onyx slide. I like this. They got a little coffin over here, toxic waste, a hint of a subtle, not even subtle, just why is there crazy mushrooms down there? Well, there's toxic waste. Toxic waste will turn Matt Murdock into Daredevil. It'll turn little turtles into Ninja Turtles. Turn all the Toxic Avenger. We all know toxic waste. It's never good. It's never good. Now they tumble out of the slide, and these two, of course, the two chicks tumble on top of each other. Batsy's got this little wry smile. Oh, excuse me. And Wulf is just checking out what's going on. So this, I'll get to it when I get to this panel. So he's looking, investigating. Sorry, I didn't mean to attack you. My name's Patchy. Giggle. Nice to meet you, Patchy. I'm Batsy. No need to apologize. There's worse things in the world than to be tackled by a cute, villainous hench girl. And then Wulf. Look at this. He's got wounds on his face. That begs the question. Did Henry have silver buckshot? Is Wulf immune to anything non-silver, like most werewolves? Could the if it wasn't, because who has silver buckshot? I mean, you could make it, but that is a special order, and special order, like Burger King, special orders don't upset us. How's that for an old time? But did in Bill Willingham, one of my favorite comic book creators, he had a comic book called The Elementals, and in The Elementals, which was based on Villains Vigilantes, the very first comic book, inspired by Villains Vigilantes, the role-playing game that I play, he had a bad guy called Ratman, and Ratman was a lycanthrope, a were-rat. So he was a human transformed by supernatural means into a rat man, and he could only be killed by silver weapons. But regular weapons still hurt and still did damage, but non-permanent, like he healed from them. So is that the story with Wulf? Like, is he going to heal from this fast? And that begs the question, could you use artillery, say, and hit Wulf and shred him to pieces? Is it enough damage to kill him, even though it's not silver? Do you need silver weapons to affect Wulf? Well, not affect him. This affect him, but you know what I mean, to kill him permanently. Or even if you took artillery and it shot him and blew him to pieces, would he heal from that? These are all things, I would like to know, because I'm a crazy person. So he's getting mad at the slide, and like the Hulk, he just lashes out. He destroys this onyx slide. Destroying the onyx slide, that was probably ruining the stability of this tunnel. Geez, Wulf, look what you've done. You not only shattered the slide, but you also smashed in the cave wall. Your bad temper has destroyed our only way to backtrack out of here. The room was so tightly packed, even if I turned into a mist, I don't think I could squeak through. Turn into a mist? What are you talking about? Oh, I have certain talents. If we ever get out of here, maybe one night I'll give you a demonstration. I'm not sure what that means. There's another way out of here at the other end of the cave system. We just have to walk a while to get to it. I love these underground mushroom systems. And where we go? Oh my, look at that tight little crevasse. Well, double entrée. I thought you knew your way around. Henry says if we ever get lost, keep walking in this direction to find the way out. But I've never explored this far. That's strange. This bed of fungi appears to have created as if something fell through it. Oh, the fungi is collapsing. Moo. Now they, through the slide, the goop slide. Here they go to level 6 of the dungeon. And oh, yuck, I got to get out of these clothes. I'm covered in some kind of slimy cave goop. Me too. This outfit is ruined. A pile of bones. And looks like a cairn of death. Looks to me like it was a chance to dive in and wash off the slimy cave goop. See, Wulf's got the right idea. Those are skeletons of dead people. What's the matter? You've never seen skeletons before? How do you think they got here? They died. But what killed them? Who knows? Probably just a bunch of cave explorers who got lost. But why they piled up? Maybe they huddled together for warmth or starved to. You see, Batsy is just in the moment. In the moment. Plus, she's a monster. She's not scared of dead bones. Got to get a little sexiness. But what else is something is killing? Oh, Patchy, stop assuming the worst. Think positive. Close your eyes, boys and girls. I'm coming through. You mean you're just going to swim in a cave pool? Who knows what's down there? How else am I going to rinse off this slimy goop? Come on. It's pure natural water. Get clean. I'll take a plunge just to get rid of this, but I'd like to preserve what's left of my cheerleader outfit. And they come to this island filled with bones. They're going to find Smeagol in the One Ring over there. So Patchy may be the henchman of an evil kidnapping drug dealer, but she's modest. So your werewolf friend, he's sort of like half human, half animal, right? So is undressing in front of him a no-no, like undressing in front of a guy, or is it okay, like undressing in front of a dog? Good question. I don't know. I've never really thought about it before. Shoo, go away, you guys. Stay on that side of the bone pile while I make myself decent. Make yourself decent? How are you going to make yourself decent? Your outfits are very resourceful. She's taking everything. I'm sure I could figure something out. All the stuff laying around. Now come see. You made, oh, how cute. You made a bone bikini. A bone bikini. You like it? There you go. The bone bikini. I love it. The skeleton hands for bra cups, the broken skull for a bikini, but your female skirt in the back. It's like nothing else. The near nakedness of this outfit is such a bold choice, so daring, so brazen, such a French catacomb chic. So here we go. They're bonding. She's wearing like the tatters of her regular clothes. And what does she do? He's a werewolf, so you're a vampire. That's right. So she's like, what is she drinking? Oh yeah, she's drinking the blood of the rat. You're gonna suck my blood? Oh, I've been thinking about it. After all, human blood is the most nutritious, but I don't feel like chopping your head off to prevent you from coming back. So this to me is like a little problem that I've always had with vampire stories. So Brian establishes the rules of his vampires right here. So if if Batsy was to eat Patchy, she needs to cut her head off to prevent her from turning into a vampire. That's a lot of work. Like every time you feast, like you have to behead people. Okay, that works as long as you establish the rules. In fact, I might like you to come back. You seem like a fun one to keep around after biting. Then we could be vampire friends forever. But I also don't want to stay down here waiting for you to reawaken. I sure don't feel like carrying you back to the surface. So I'll tide myself over with rats. So she's explaining why I'm not going to kill you. I could kill you. It would be fun to kill you, but I'm not. Too bad they're so small and have so little blood in them. Hopefully we could find a big one. And of course, we know what we're going to see next. Now, my problem with vampire fiction and werewolf fiction is, they always show like a vampire kills every night. So, like, you got to establish the rules. Does just being bit by a vampire turn you into a vampire? Does just being bit by a werewolf turn you into a werewolf? Like, if I could see, like, to my way of thinking, there has to be like like rules to how creatures turn, like how werewolves and vampires create other vampires and werewolves. Like, to me, just feeding on somebody shouldn't be enough to make you a vampire. Like, so I was real happy when Anne Rice had showed like how vampires are created, this exchange of blood. the master vampire sucks out all the blood of the lesser vampire, and then feeds the master vampire, then feeds, so basically takes all the blood out of the youngling and replaces it with his blood. So there's like a circle, an exchange going on, and then waits for the vampire to transform. I like that. It takes effort. The master vampire is vulnerable for a second or two, or a day or two. So it's not something that they do willy-nilly. Otherwise, the world would be aflush with vampires. But this says if Batsy feeds on you, you're going to turn into a vampire unless she cuts your head off. So that could be a lot of vampires made by accident, like she's feeding and then gets chased off or things like that. Now, werewolves, in my mind, and I don't know what's in Brian's mind, and believe me, you don't want to go into Brian's mind. If you get eaten by a werewolf, do you turn into a werewolf? So that would mean an awful lot of werewolves. Or, in my mind, if you get attacked by a werewolf and survive, you don't die. That's when you become a werewolf. But werewolves are so vicious, their attacks are so deadly that, 1 out of 1,000 victims of a werewolf. That's the way I justify it. But I don't know. And maybe Brian will answer these questions, maybe he won't. But we already know how vampires are created in his world. I'd like to see how werewolves are created in his world. So now, what did she say? She wished there was a big rat to feed on. Be careful what you wish for. Look at that page. Look at that page. And we got the original chick over here. Terry. Holy cannoli, the rat slug. The rat slug. Yes, that's what Henry calls it. A phocomelic mutant rat. I've seen it before on fungi picking missions. And Henry and Lynette. Last time it was only as big as a dog. It's grown a lot. It's waking up. Gasp, there's somebody down there. We know what's coming on. The missing girl we saw on the news, Terry Nenth. The boyfriend is dead. It ate him. My boyfriend is dead. Oh, God, please get me out of here. Look, it's a crack in the ceiling. That's the way out, but it's too small. Not if I can bust it open. So she's Tarzaning around. Oh, no, the rat slug is going to bite Batsy. In more werewolf stories are like a virus, contagious if even scratched. Yeah. Like but I'll buy that. But I always think that werewolves are like more dangerous than a vampire. Like a vampire is like a surgeon, whereas a werewolf is literally a rage-induced carnivorous monster. Like, so you're not just going to get, like, if a werewolf is close enough to scratch you, it's going to bite you and devour you and kill you. That's the way I always think of it. So, like, once you die, you die. This is my speculation. This is how, if I ever do a werewolf story, this is how they're going to work in my comics. If you die from a werewolf bite, you're dead. But if you get attacked, and then maybe nowadays there'd be more and more werewolves, because maybe modern science, modern surgical techniques could save you. And then, oh my, I just thought of something like, what if a werewolf was to give blood? Oh, geez. And then everybody who gets his werewolf blood turns into werewolves. That's interesting. And others are born like that. The Mexican Nagualas. It's a witchy ritual. Yeah. I know that there's like different stories for werewolves. There's werewolves that become werewolves when they're attacked by other werewolves. There's werewolves that literally hunt down and skin wolves and wear their skin and then transform. And then there's magic spells that turn you into werewolves. Yeah, there's werewolf lore, werewolf stories. Sideways Burnouts. How you doing? Cool. It's always good to see a new name. Looks cool. Yeah, I love this comic. I love Wulf and Batsy. Ain't nobody gonna attack Batsy while Wulf was around. So now we got big old Wulf on rat violence. Look at that panel. Batsy is swinging around. She's landing. She does the superhero pose, superhero landing. Again, we got sound effects and a whoops, but we know what's going on. We know what's going on. We don't need no stinking words. The rat attacking. She's going back and forth. Oh, I think I hit a water main. The water starts. Oh no, she's flooding. Not on purpose. Give me a little credit. So we got. Look at all the threats. So we got giant rat creature, a werewolf fighting a giant rat creature. Now we got danger of a flood. And now there's still a third threat looming around. Are Wulf and Batsy going to kill these two girls? After all the fight's over, if they survive the flood, if they survive the rat creature, are the two girls going to survive? Like, there's multiple threats. All of them, like lay it on top of each other. Patchy, get out of here! Help! Somebody help me! Well, there's the answer for Patchy. Patchy doesn't survive that. Help me! So, poor Patchy. I was starting to like her. Did you ever read Gru the Wanderer? Like, whenever Gru the Wanderer steps on a boat, that boat's going to sink. Whenever Batsy likes a girl, she ain't too long for this world. I was starting to like her. So now Batsy is getting some violence in, stabbing the rat. This place is filling. We got to get out of here before we drown. Good catch, Wulf. So Wulf catches Batsy. Water's still coming in. The rat's getting over there. That hole in the wall might be a way out. So again, we got a whole bunch of threats going on. It's getting deep. We're going under. Now, here's another question up. Vampires, do they breathe in this world? Like, to my way of thinking, going underwater wouldn't drowning wouldn't stop a vampire because they don't need to breathe. But do werewolves need to breathe? Like, are werewolves dead? These are all questions that when you're making your monster, you need to not necessarily explain it, but you got to think about it and then be consistent in your storytelling. But you don't have to, and then the people will figure it out sooner or later. Where are you going, guys? Oh, I'm Wulf and Batsy. He's a werewolf. I'm a vampire. We've had a lot of crazy adventures, but we never fought a giant rat. Werewolves, vampires, wolves, giant rats. I'm out of here. The sun will be up soon. Yeah. So she survives. Did she survive because they let her survive, or do they survive because the sun will be up soon? Like, they needed to get out of there before either they're discovered or her case burns up from the sun. Don't be mad. We could still go back tomorrow, kill the guy, and take over the house. Too late. The press saw he's fled the premises, and the cops are all over the house. We're going to skip town. What about the fungi stash? Shut up, Lynette. You want to keep living there after seeing a real werewolf in our backyard? Oh, shucks. Well, I'm tired anyway. I'll lay down soon. Yeah, I heard you the first time. Don't worry. I'll make sure the drapes stay shut and you're undisturbed. So, see, he still has the wounds on his face. This Patchy girl is right. This bone kini is pretty cute. The skippiness made me feel sexy. I think I'll keep it. Maybe I'll find an excuse to wear it again. My face hurts. I swear, nothing makes me angrier than random senselessness of the universe. Suffering for no reason. I just don't understand. Why did we have to go through all of that? We got nothing out of it but wasted time and injuries. What purpose did it serve? Batsy's just unconcerned. They kind of remind me of Calvin and Hobbes. I just thought of that now. Calvin and Hobbes. She's Hobbes the tiger, just instant gratification. It's over. We're out of danger. Go to sleep. Doesn't matter anymore. Problem doesn't exist. And he's poor Calvin over here, just Why do I exist? What is going on? Snore. Grrr. At the home of Sven Neth and his daughter Terry Neth. You are right, Father. I'm sorry. I was so foolish. I can't explain what made me do that. Returning to something I knew was wrong. It's okay. You're my child. No matter how many times you stumble, I will always forgive you. And then we got Captain Bloodcott's famous novelties. Oh, as I hit the camera. 1 dozen rotten eggs. Now, I love these ads in the book, and I asked Brian about them. And every time I ask Brian about Captain Bloodclot, he changes the subject. Hey, Brian, I like these Captain Bloodclot. Oh, really? Yeah, did you see Star Wars? Yeah, I saw Star Wars. We talked about Star Wars. But anyway, back Captain Bloodclot. Oh, yeah, I got to go dinner. He never wants to explain what's going on with Captain Bloodclot. Cure for all drinks. Tell them to drink more and stop being a sissy. Glow in the dark tie. Hang on to your front door. And it's funny is that Brian had some Captain Bloodclot novelties in Heroic Tales, and I've been getting threatening letters in the mail and a couple of strange phone calls of it's really weird because you pick up the phone and you can actually smell sea salt, and I'm like, Captain Bloodclot, and he says, I'm on to you. That's it. Big bag of dead bugs. How to draw monsters. Dr. Rotbrain's mindless movie reviews. The slithering vomit from outer space. The nylon succubus. I'd watch that. I don't watch the nylon succubus. And then we have. Did I skip a page? Nope. This is the back cover. So look at that. 64 big pages. Double-sized issue. Look at that. That is just awesome. So let's address some of the comments. PB says, if vampires talk, they breathe. Not necessarily. They breathe to draw oxygen in so they could move their vocal cords. But if they're not speaking, maybe they don't need to breathe. That's the way I think. That's the way it would work. If a vampire needs to speak to somebody, they draw in a breath. But if they're not speaking, do they need to draw in a breath? You know what I mean? That just means they need oxygen to stimulate vocal cords to speak. But if they're not speaking, do they need the oxygen? That is the kind of rules that you need to establish. Do they get everything to new? I don't know. That's just the way I think. So they don't necessarily need to, because they're speaking doesn't necessarily mean that they need oxygen to break down, what is energy in their cells. I don't remember if we have Mexican vampires. A few stories away from Europe. Yeah, that would be if there's it seems like every region has their own local vampire laws. Is there a local Mexican vampire law, like the Brujas and stuff? Or godlike creatures need blood ritual but not drink the blood? Yeah, right? The Mayan and Aztec stories. Sorry, I'm just talking so much. Isn't a chupacabra a vampire? Good question. I don't know. The Mexican goat sucker, right? Is it a monster? Is it a real animal that we just don't know? Is it a real animal that has some sort of birth defect? But I don't know. Is it a vampire? To me, the defining thing that makes a vampire is it has to feed on its own. So the chupacabra is a Mexican goat sucker, right? So in order for it to be a vampire, it means it originally had to be a goat. Like a human is a vampire, so therefore, like Batsy was originally a human, so she has to feed on humans. That's to me the most defining trait of a vampire is ultimately the cannibalism. A whole lot of hola. How you doing, Wrangler? Good to see you. How's everything? I wonder, is this an alternate comic? Wulf and Batsy used to be an alternate comic. Now it is Bloody Weirdo Comics. And you go to brianbow.net, Wulf and Batsy. and you could pick them up. You could pick them up. Barbecue chupacabra quesadillas. There you go. Turn the tides. That thing's gonna eat your goats. You eat that. That'll teach those dirty, dirty chupacabras. They describe the wolf or a dog feral who drink the blood of an animal. Chupacabras. They're described as feral dogs. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, there's this story in a news story, a real story in India. There was a tiger that would jump in the windows of people's houses and eat the humans in the house. And it killed like 35 people before they finally caught it and killed it. And they found out that its paw, one of its paws was wounded, and it couldn't hunt in the forest, in the jungle. It couldn't go after its natural prey. So because it was wounded, it went after humans, which is more dangerous. I mean, to get one human is probably easier than to get a normal animal, but in the long run, it's safer to hunt and kill in the jungle than it is to go after humans. So, out of desperation and hunger, this tiger turned its attention on literally going into an Indian village and eating humans, because otherwise it was death. So I always wondered if chupacabras are the same thing. Is it a wolf or a dog that just through disease, malnutrition, or some sort of birth defect, or a wound that went after goats? That's to me, you know, I'm a natural skeptic. I want there to be fairies and ghosts and UFOs, stuff like that, but you got to eliminate everything, and what's left, eliminate the impossible. What's left is the probable. That's the way I look at it. So it's more probable that a chupacabra is some sort of animal that's acting atypical of its species than to assume a monster or a vampire. In the 80s, we had the paranoia of giant human rat creatures in the sewers. That's cool. That's cool. That's something I would be interested in learning about, if you know anything more about that. So there you go. Talked for an hour and a half about Wulf and Batsy. I can't stress enough of how much I enjoy this comic. I'm gonna I should have put the link of how to get it in here, because as far as I know, it's not in your local comic book stores. So Wulf and Batsy, I'm typing in my phone. Forgive me for not looking at the screen. BrianBow.net. Okay. BrianBow.net. All right. I'm going to just do this for a second. Pull out my drawer and type. And I'll pull up his website. I will bring back the comic. Okay. And I will now share his screen. And I will bring that up, and I will do that. So now we got BrianBow.net. So you could get, all of his social, Instagram, Twitter, DeviantArt, newsletter, YouTube, Indie Planet, TeePublic, Prince, Animation, Undead Noisemaker. And you can pick up all of his stuff. Here's the store. Wow, that was pretty cool. You could get commissions, original art, back issues from Alterna. You could get them reprinted under Bloody Weirdo. So here is issue 13. Are we seeing it? Yes, we are seeing it. So we see issue 13, and then we're seeing all the variants. So we got the one that I'm showing, and then issue 13, just the, pretty much naked Batsy and Werewolf staring right at us. And then we got the it's like an homage cover to Creepy or Eerie, I forget which one. And then the last one is Savage Sword of Savage Saga of Wulf and Batsy. That's an homage to a Savage Sword of Conan that had a rat creature on the cover. And then it came out on a Wednesday. Why? Because that's Wulf and Batsy has a little short story. It came out on a Wednesday. It was Alterna's anthology book, and that's I'm submitting. I don't know if it'll get in, and I'm submitting it to Pete. I hope Pete accepts it for the next issue. Of it came out on a Wednesday, and then Magnum Orgus and Magnum Orgus 2. These are never before. These are not put into Alterna or Bloody Weirdo. These are like graphic novels that maybe Brian will put them in future issues of Wulf and Batsy. But he says that Magnum Orgus is his Watchmen, his big story. This is Wulf and Batsy first edition. This is sold out. A Frazetta tribute, so you can buy these art. I love this. I love this cover. So you can still get some of these a lot of these comics. Oh, sold out. You can get a lot of these on Brian's site. So there you go. I'll close it down and I will remove that. And I will do this and that because you don't need to see my face. You don't need to see my face, Brian. Are you currently collecting anything Marvel? No, I'm not. I haven't collected anything Marvel since 2015. The closest I get is every once in a while I miss the Fantastic Four, and then I buy a year's worth of Fantastic Four back issues. So I think I'm up to 2018 of the Fantastic Four, but that's the closest I get to modern Marvel. I'm just not interested. I don't know. Maybe it's better now. I heard it. Hope you're well. I'm doing very well, Devil Fly. How are you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. So we got a bunch of people watching. I got through the comic. Next week we'll probably go back to the X-Men. And at this point, I usually talk about what's going on my channel. So I'm looking at my phone for my calendar. And as always, I hit the wrong button. So Wednesday, I have Edward Lilly, I think his name is, and we're gonna talk about his upcoming Kickstarter. He's so talented. RJ from the Fourth Age just discovered him and then brought him on to an early episode of a comic book team up. And he is such a cool guy, such a good talent. I can't wait to talk to him. Then we did a series together, just crowdfunding 101, we called it. And we just talked about everything. He wanted to learn how to do a crowdfund, and then I was just talking about what I learned. I'm not an expert. While I'm on my second campaign, I'm about to fulfill. So yeah. So I shared that knowledge with him. That was a lot of fun. That's really and then Friday night, midnight, we're going to talk about the biggest femme fatale of comics. So whoever you want to talk about, that's always open invite. But I might do other stuff. I got new comics. I got some back issues coming in, and then comics that I read. So I will stream. I will stream again. But I don't, because of this job schedule. It's just really putting a hole in my channel. It's just hard to stream when I can only stream at noon Eastern Standard Time or midnight Eastern Standard Time. LE, the Final Metamorphosis. Have back issues gotten cheaper? I'm noticing that back issues are getting cheaper. Not key issues, but to plug in holes there, I'm finding that they are getting cheaper again. Which is great because I just want to read these comics and put them in boxes and love them and store them and look at them every once in a while. I'm not a speculator. I'm not a flipper. I think that has ruined the hobby. So there you go. I got nothing else to say. Check out Wulf and Batsy. I hope you liked it. Brian will be starting his crowdfunding for the next issue. I'll say sooner rather than later. I don't know the exact date. But all I can say is buy kids.
Goodbye, kids.